Recently, a box containing human heads of all things was stolen out of a parked freight company truck in Denver, and the investigation is now ongoing. It is a bizarre, dark story, and I want to understand more about why this might have happened, where this investigation might go. And so we're very lucky to be joined by Michael Burg, the founding shareholder of national law firm Burg, Simpson, Eldridge, Hirsch, and Jardin, who has experience in cases involving human remains. Michael, welcome to the Damage Report.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're very glad to talk to you about that. I mean, of course, we would prefer to be talking about something a little bit less macabre, but this is the situation that's been presented to us. So you've dealt with cases like this before. Why would something like this happen?
Well, first of all, let me give you sort of a background. We were involved in numerous cases of body brokers that would make misrepresentations to the public to get their loved ones' bodies. They would then get the bodies, promise that they were going to be used for science and research, and then they'd cut them up, sell them on the black market, sell them to other body brokers. They used price sheets as if you go into a butcher shop. So much for a head, so much for an arm, so much for a leg. The first case we had, and it occurred in Phoenix, Arizona, the FBI found some heads that were being sent through customs. And they began to do their research and they got warrants, and they actually came into the facility in Arizona, a facility in Seattle, a facility in Chicago, a facility in Detroit. We ended up suing on behalf of the victims, and we ended up getting one of the largest verdicts in the history of Maricopa County, $58.5 million on behalf of our clients. We have another case here in Colorado where, again, here they were telling people that they were going to cremate the bodies, and then in fact was actually in the back room chopping them up, selling them on the open market, and then giving the cremains back to the people with sawdust, wood remains. Some of them they put in weights to make it seem heavier.
Oh,
so when you got that, so when I first heard the story here in Denver, people were saying, "Oh my God, these heads were stolen. We got to find out who took the heads." And I was thinking to myself, "No, what we have to find out is whose heads are they? How do they get the heads? What was the company doing in terms of getting potential releases to allow them to even get the body parts? And also, who is behind this?" People don't realize, but these body snatchers, and that's what I call them, have been around for years and years and years. And this is a multi-billion-dollar business. Wow. And people get confused between this and organ donation, and they are absolutely different.
So when I first read about this, I thought that maybe there was a chance that these were thieves who didn't realize what they were stealing. You're saying, no, you believe they very much knew this was intentional because this is such a big business.
Well, maybe. I don't really know the motive behind the stealing of the heads. But first of all, what are the heads doing in the truck? Who are they to be delivered to? What are the purposes of the heads? And now we know that they were stolen. I mean, could someone have accidentally, as you said, broken in, found the heads, destroyed the heads, didn't realize what they're getting? Or did somebody know that they were valuable? Heads were going, and this was back in 2018, they would go from anywhere from $1,500 to as high as $5,000 or $6,000 a head. So if you had 4 heads at $5,000, you're looking at $20,000.
I'm not 100% sure that you'll have the answer for this, and I hesitate to even ask, but I can understand for some of these things, it could theoretically play into some sort of underground black market for getting access to organs that might be difficult to get through normal means. When you're talking about a head, though, what are they planning to do with a head that makes it worth $5,000?
That's a good question. First of all, let's make sure you're not getting organs from body donations. The person is dead. In order for the organs to be useful, they actually still have to be alive and can be used for transplant. Okay. The body parts technically can be used for researchers of pharmaceutical companies or doctors who are teaching students, or they can be used, for example, legitimately. Let's assume you have a new device that's going to make hip replacements better. So they want to have hips or knees that they can then use for purposes of demonstrations. And some of the people are end users. When it comes to heads, quite frankly, I was surprised that they were valuable. We found in our cases that some of the torsos were improperly sold to the Department of Defense to be blown up as crash dummies. Legs, arms, hips would be sold to police departments to train cadaver dogs without the people, the loved ones who are giving up the body knowing that's how they're going to be used for, when in fact they're promised that they're going to be used for. Now, I can tell you the heads that they found in the case in Arizona, they suspected they were going to the Middle East to be used by terrorists to scare people, to say they'd cut off these heads, and they would show them to people and say, look, you do what we want you to do, or we're going to cut off your head. That was the presumption by the FBI when they raided the facility. So to answer your question, I don't really know what those heads would be used for or where the value comes from, but I can tell you this is a multi-billion-dollar business that is totally unregulated. To cut hair, you need to get a license. To clip nails, you have to get a license. To drive a car, you have to get a license. There is absolutely no licensure and no regulation of body brokers. Unlike organ donations, where it's highly regulated, where there's regulations both federally and state, body brokers, really, they are grave robbers who don't even have to give up the bodies. They go to hospices, they go to hospitals, and they tell them, we're going to take care of your remains. You're not going to have to pay anything. So it's a very macabre and a horrible business. They take advantage of the most vulnerable people. They've just lost their loved one. They don't know what to do. They're confused. And they come along and they get that body, and then they use it for purposes. Now, there are some legitimate body broker ways to get bodies. Two of our experts in our cases came from the University of Minnesota and University of California, and they have regulations that they've set up internally about what they do with the bodies and the representations that are made and what they're going to be used for. But unfortunately, most of the people out there are not legitimate. So what they're doing with the heads, who stole the heads, those are questions that need to be answered. But I'm more concerned because of the history of, we need to stop and start regulating by state and federal law so they're not taking advantage of these people who are so vulnerable.
Yeah, I had no idea that it touched on so many different areas that doctors could be involved in, universities, Department of Defense, police departments. Obviously, a lot of these are authority figures, powerful organizations, and there's a lot of money behind it, as you say. So it certainly does seem like it demands a look into regulation. Wow, man, this has really opened a door. I think people would be shocked to find out this is going on. And Michael, we want to thank you for joining us and breaking this down. This is really something.
Yeah, it's something that I think I really appreciate you getting the word out so that the public becomes aware of what's going on out there, because these people who are taken advantage of, they have such guilt when they find out the truth of what happened to their loved one's body, and it's really, really horrific.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Thank you again, Michael.
Thank you.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.